Hi folks, here we are again. It's Saturday afternoon. A few more days have gone by since I talked to you last. We've made a little progress here. I don't think any of this plywood was up in the last video, but the little piece over there behind the fire sprinkler riser. So anyway, we've gotten these other sheets up here. This is very time consuming doing this. Like I say, it's like hanging sheetrock, only you got to be pretty precise. Sheetrock's way more forgiving, easier to adjust, shall we say. So anyway, we've gotten a few sheets of plywood up. And we have the rest of the wall insulated. I put a few more outlets in. You see over here, this is just going to be bench and work area. The bench is probably going to stop about here, I think. And then I'll put the roll around the toolbox from the other garage, the mechanic toolbox over here. And then on the other side of that, I got a bench inside with a sheet metal brake on it and a drill press. That'll go here. And the rest of this space, I'm just going to leave for now. I have a disc belt sander that showed up the other day. Right there, haven't unpacked it yet because it's easier to move around right now that way. That's going to go over here somewhere. I have a tall cabinet with two doors that I just use for storage. I put the drills and whatever else in there. I'm going to put that, I think, right next to the post, facing in this way towards me, right here. Again, for the work, if I'm working at the bench, all I gotta do is turn around and open the cabinet. Kind of be right opposite the roll around. But anyway, that's where we're at. You can see I got another sheet of plywood laying there. I'm gonna continue with the plywood. All right, we'll show you more as we go. Talk to you later. Thanks for watching. Bye. Here's a little tidbit that might help someone if anyone's doing this. When you're hanging panels like plywood on a wall or a sheetrock where you've got a big square panel and you're measuring for outlets, and you're measuring top to bottom, you're cutting and all that stuff, it's critical to know if what you're measuring from is level and square or plumb with the vertical. If the horizontal and the vertical are level and square, so that when you take measurements and you transfer them over to that square piece of panel, they're going to work. Anyway, what I'm doing here is I'm keeping my panels up off of the concrete 1/4 of an inch because none of this stuff is pressure treated. And concrete always has moisture in it. Even though it appears to be solid, it's always got moisture in it. And if you put wood on there that's not pressure treated, it wicks the moisture into the wood, and then obviously it dry rots and gets moldy and all that other stuff. So I'm putting a piece of 1/4 inch plywood down and putting the panels on top of that, so that when I'm done, I remove the plywood and I have a 1/4 inch gap between the wood and the concrete. Anyway, so what I'm doing here, just to see if the panel is square with this area, the foundation area here, is I'm using a framing square, which gives me a 2-foot leg on one side, and I think this is an 18 or 16 inch leg on the other side. See, there's the 2-foot length there. So I'm laying that on the plywood on top of the foundation and running it up against the plywood that's already installed. And you can see it's very nice. It's nice and square. So now when I measure from here over to the outlet and make a mark, a nice square mark, a parallel mark off of that edge on the piece of panel laying over there on the sawhorses. And then I measure up off from the plywood to the bottom of the outlet and make a mark and square that all up and cut a hole. I know when I come over here and lay that piece of plywood down on these two pieces of 1/4 inch plywood, these spacers here, it should all work because it's all square. If it's out of square, it doesn't. It definitely doesn't. And the top, I noticed I measured from the top to the bottom on one side. It was 1 dimension. It was 1/8 of an inch different on the other side. So you got to figure out where is that 1/8 inch difference? Is it the bottom that's not parallel, not square, or is it the top that's not square? In this case, it's the top that isn't square. The bottom is. Anyway, you need to know that, and that's just a little tidbit that kind of helps you to figure that out, to decide which end, since the dimensions are different, which end you need to angle, if you need to angle it. And obviously when you're doing the outlets, you may have to do the same thing. In this case, I got lucky. The guys doing the foundation were pretty good. And when I put the first panel up, I made sure it was plumb, so I would, have a square and level thing. Anyway, again, thanks for watching. Talk to you later. Okay, well, there's how it works when everybody does their job correctly. As you can see, this is the way the measurements work when everything's correct. Nice. And you can see the other thing I'm doing here is marking the studs. I'm laying out and marking the panel where all the studs are. And then I'm also laying out the screws. Ooh, I forgot one right there. I'm laying out the screws so I get them all. I mean, you don't have to do that. You can guess, obviously. But it only takes about 5 minutes to do a panel. And that you're all even. You know where everything goes. You're not going to miss anything and miss the studs. So anyway, yeah, it works out nice. All right, so that's all for today. We're going to go get some dinner, right? So, we'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching again. Bye. If you don't do this work every day, you do it only every so often, you forget some of the tricks you learned, as you gain the experience doing this, because you do it so infrequently. I showed you how to check to make sure that the reference points you were working with were square, so when you compared them with the the square panel you're going to install, you would have accurate measurements. This is actually a better method. If you take a piece that you know is straight, you can check it with a straight edge, like this one that's here. It's a cutoff off a panel. It's, I don't know, roughly 4 or 5 inches by 4 feet, the same dimension as the panel. This gives you the ability to set this straight edge up on the same footprint the panel is going to take. It's 4 feet long. The panel, 4 feet wide. The panel's 4 feet wide. Then if you put the square on the straight edge and you put it up against the panel that's already standing there, you know definitely that the two pieces are going to be square. If you just use the frame, you see that leg that's sitting there now? It's roughly 18 inches long, and if you turn it around and you use the leg of the square that's standing up, that's 2 feet long, there could be a dip in the concrete, and that can be deceiving. It can lead you to believe the edges are not square, either too tight or too loose. Anyway, this way is a much better method. So like I say, I thought of this afterwards, and I have the piece. The piece is a cutoff from another panel. I have the piece laying there. This is, like I say, you just forget this stuff when you don't do it every day. It eventually comes back to you, hopefully before you have an error and remember it that way. But anyway, that's it. A little, I don't know, tidbit of advice you might say here. Anyway, this looks good still, so I'm going to keep going. See you later. Bye. Hi, guys. We're back. Well, as you can see, I spent good part of both weekend days getting this done. So plywood's all up on this wall. Now we can start the finishing process. As you can see, covered that section of the floor, put some cardboard underneath the wall to protect the concrete so it doesn't get all grimy, messy with the taping compound and paint. And we tape this up, sprinklerizer, so we can work the taping compound and the paint around that without it getting all messy. I left the orange plastic pipe Going to paint that. That's just a drain for the sprinkler system. If you want to drain it, that's a good place. They give you a valve there. It just runs outside. Anyway, time to start the finishing process on this. First thing I'm going to do is put a coat of, I think I have some PVA sealer that I'm going to use on there. Left over from when they did the sealing. It's about the same as a primer, I'm thinking, so I'm going to do that. And that way, I'm thinking if I put some paint on this wood, the taping compound will act more like it does on a sheetrock. If I put the taping compound right on the wood, I'm afraid the water's going to soak into the wood, you know, and the compound won't work like it normally does because the water will go away from it too fast. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe there's no logic to that, or no, you know what I mean, no proof to that. But I feel better if I put a coat of primer or sealer on this wood and then tape it. All right, so here goes. That's the next step. I'll show you that as we get going on it. But anyway, this part of it is done. Wall's covered. Talk to you later. Thanks for watching.